Welcome back to Julie's Wreath Boutique. Today I'm going to teach you how to make a daisy wreath. Here is what you will need to assemble your wreath. 10-inch rolls of poly burlap. Green and white are what we're going to use today. Chenille stems, wire cutters or a strong pair of scissors, a 10-inch wreath frame, a piece of white felt if you would like to cover the back of your wreath, and I have 3-inch zip ties and 8-inch zip ties, a sharp pair of scissors, and a rotary cutter, along with a mat to cut your fabric on. Here is what you will need to make the center part of your wreath. You will need a rotary cutter, glue sticks, a sharp pair of scissors, 1 yard of natural jute burlap, any color that you would like. I'm using yellow today, and a glue gun. Let's assemble the middle of our wreath. I'm going to take my piece of burlap and I'm going to put a little bit of glue right here in this corner and this corner. A little bit on the side here, the top side, and then just a little bit in the middle. Now this is how we're going to do it. Make sure that you're very careful with the glue and you don't burn yourself. I've done it plenty of times, trust me. So I'm going to fold it over, one triangle, and then I'm going to gather it here with my fingers, being very careful because you can burn yourself. And I'm just going to keep rolling and try to keep it as tight as I can be. And what you're left with is a tube-like shape. And I'm going to make about 7 of these. Now that we have our tubes of burlap made, we're going to start assembling the center. I'm going to choose this one, and I'm going to make sure that this middle center, you can see a little bit of the glue part, I want to make sure that's hidden. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start down here. I will trim any long pieces of burlap, and I will put a little bit of glue here. Now again, please be careful. You can burn your hands very easily doing this. So I'm just going to gently roll it over and start rolling into the tube. Making sure you give it a little bit of time to make sure the glue holds your pieces together here. You don't want it to come apart. And I'm just going to keep going down the length of my tube of burlap. A little bit of glue right here, and we're going to hold it right there, make sure it starts to adhere. Okay, so now you can see that I have the beginning of my daisy swirl here. I'm going to just trim a few of the pieces here and get those out of the way. When you start, you're going to have a good side and you're going to have a messy side. This is going to be our messy side. So I like the way that this side looks. I'm going to just kind of shove that middle part in there and it should be good. Now I'm going to take another tube and I'm going to adhere it to the center. Just be careful to make sure it keeps lining up. And there we have our second one added. Over here I'm going to just trim a little bit of this up. Just actually going to cut off a chunk here of the burlap. Nobody will see this part. So here's where it gets a little tricky. We want to make sure that we balance our swirl. Over here you can see there's a thicker part of the swirl and a thinner part. So I'm going to take my next piece of tube, and the outsides of your tube are going to be the thinner part, the middle will be your thicker, and again on the outside your thinner. So you want to go through, I'm going to just trim up some of my loose ends here. It's burlap phrase, it always will. And I'm going to look at this and I'm going to start where the thicker side is so that that once we get to the middle of this tube, it will come over here where the thinner side is. I'm going to try to make sure I keep it lined up. It can be a little tricky. It's kind of doing that to me right now. Just kind of move it over and slowly go around and adhering it to all sides. So at this point, again, I'm going to just go through and trim my loose ends. And I'm going to go ahead and finish this using the same technique that I just taught you, and I'll be right back. At this point, I have my middle center done, and again, I have trimmed away the loose strands, and as you can see, that's my not so nice side, but this is my better side. So now we have it and we're ready to assemble to our wreath. I already have made my white flower because we're doing the same technique that we used for the sunflower wreath. All you need to do is go to the sunflower wreath tutorial and follow the directions the same way. So now let's assemble our daisy. I'm going to take my center and I'm going to turn it to the bad side here. I'm going to take my 8-inch zip tie and I'm going to just thread it through parts of the burlap. This might take a minute here, so be patient with me. So I have one in that side. I'm going to turn it around and I'm going to add another one. We're going to put 3 of these in. So at this point I have all 3 of my zip ties in. I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to gently put it down in the middle of my wreath, pulling some of the petals out. We have not fluffed or shaped our wreath yet, so don't worry, we'll get to that. So I'm going to just kind of pull my petals here. You can't see it, but one of my zip ties came up. All right. I'm going to gently flip it over and hold my hand right here. And now I'm going to attach my center. Be very careful not to smash down your wreath. I'm going to let it gently lay there because we don't want to make a mess of the petals that you work so hard to make. I do a lot of these daisies, and I also do them in different colors too. I do a red with a black center. I do a pink with a yellow center, and all kinds of different colors. Really, whatever your imagination can come up with, you can do. Okay, so I'm going to flip this over. Alright, I'm going to just kind of move it around to get it where I want it. Again, I'm going to move these petals. Okay, and then I'm going to flip it back over, and I'm going to just strengthen to kind of anchor down this center. I don't want it to move on me here. There we go. So now that we have that done. At this point, you can attach your felt round circle with the little zip ties if you wish. If you enjoyed this wreath tutorial, make sure you check out my YouTube channel for the rest of the tutorials. You can find all of my wreaths on Facebook at Julie's Wreath Boutique and my Etsy shop at Julie's Wreath Boutique. See you next time.